Today's guest is Richard Klemmer. He's the president and co-founder of Black Box Strategies, which provides advice to organizations on strategic planning, account management, business development, and opportunity assessment and response. He's a former government and industry executive with extensive experience in government technology and strategy consulting. And Richard's also a board member for the nonprofit Closing the Gap Year. Thank you for joining me today, Richard.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Jeremy. I really appreciate it. It's good to talk to you.
So for those who have not had a chance to get to know you or talk to you, explain a little bit about your background, where you're from, who you are, and what you do.
Sure. I'll try not to take too much and go into too much of a boring backstory. But so my family's originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So Steeler, Pirates, all of that stuff. Back when Pirates, used to have a pro team. But my dad was a teacher. So actually, he very early on worked overseas. He got a job working for the military as a dependent. So I was born in Germany and actually grew up in Germany as he was working for the Department of Defense dependent schools, DODs, over there as a teacher. So that's kind of my background was there. Growing up there in Germany, spent a number of places over there before moving back to the States when I was 22.
Oh,
I
wow.
moved to the Virginia area and been in Virginia, DC area ever since.
Well, that's a big chunk of time. My father was Air Force, so I did time in the DOD school system. I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But only like elementary to sophomore year, right? Not the entire time.
Well, it wasn't. I was trying to abbreviate. So I was
Okay.
I was born in Germany, moved to Italy for 2 years, moved back to the States, and then at 10 years old, moved back over to Germany.
Oh, wow.
And then from 10 until 22. So it was still a long time. So
Yeah.
graduated high school over there and everything. So
Do you mind asking which high school?
I graduated from Nuremberg American High School. I went to K-Town, Kaiserslautern, for a number of years, but then moved my junior year to Nuremberg and graduated from there. So
Wow. So then you came back to the States at 22, and then what happened?
So came back to the States. Well, this is a kind of interesting. Well, for me, it's interesting. So when I was growing up, my dad was a teacher, but he was also a football coach. Wanted to play football. I played 1 year in college, but that didn't work out. My next thing was I wanted to be a musician. So one of the thoughts, I was over in Germany. I worked for the government over there. I moved back here, DC area government. I thought, well, I'll get a government job because then I can, work my not 9 to 5. It was like 7 to 3:30, and then plenty of time to be a musician. So that's kind of how I got into the government workspace, was for that reason. So
Oh, wow.
and I did play in a number of bands, but no, I didn't become a famous musician or anything like that. So
what sort of instrument?
I play the drums. I did a little bit of singing too. So
Nice.
It's been a few years, but I did have a band there for a while. We played in this area. This was, just in the past, 5 years or so, but haven't in a little bit. Get back to it again one of these days. So yeah.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. And then how did you get? So you said you did that while you were working for the government, and how did that come about? I mean, how did you decide to work in government?
So like I said, originally, mostly because I was in Germany. Went to 1 year of college, went back to Germany, worked for a couple of years. So came here, DC area, figured government job, like I said, free time. And, I just stayed there and, football was my first, desire for career. The second one was, musician. Didn't look like that was going to happen. My third was computers. I always wanted to do computer programming. So I was working for the government in a, clerical type of job. But in the evenings, I would buy computer books. This is, before you had, they had, floppy disks that came with them. This is a while ago, and then started CDs. And so I taught myself programming and, just got more into computers and technology. And so that was, kind of where my career focus was after that. So, and, there was a lot of opportunities in government where I was working. DOD is the first as a civilian where I was working and had a lot of opportunities to do some programming. I was doing COBOL and stuff like that. So back then, so.
Still, it's pretty exciting that I like the story of self-taught, right? You learn it as you go, and then apply it to your career.
Mhm. Yeah. So, my dad, like I said, my dad was a football coach, but he was also a math teacher. And then when computers came out, a computer teacher. So I had a little bit of that, and I just liked it. So, um, I taught myself, like I said, COBOL, but I taught myself C, and then, Visual Basic, Power Builder, that type of stuff, and started doing that at work, and then, got a job doing that as a computer specialist with a government, and just I started the government as a GS4, but then moved up and got jobs, in the computer side of things, and so just kept going from there. So
Now, and is it at this time you worked your way all the way up into the executive ranks?
well, yeah. So I worked. Like I said, I started as a GS4. When I left the government, I was a GS15. I was acting in an SES position when I left, but that's jumping very far forward. But another key decision in end of 2017, the organization I worked for offered early retirement and a buyout. I wasn't planning it at the time. I kind of thought, I was working for the Department of Commerce. I liked it. I was at a bureau there. But I thought it would be interesting to try working for one of the smaller independent agencies. So that was kind of where I was leaning towards. But then when the buyout came, talked it over with my wife and thought, well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. Obviously, not, even though it's a retirement, it's not enough to live on in this area. So I wasn't planning on retiring, planning on going to the private industry and working there. So, and that's what happened. 2018, I left government as a retiree, even though I'm way too young, obviously, for that. So, and then went to the private side. But that was kind of the next kind of step and phase in my next assignment, like I like to say.
And did you take on a couple of different roles before you decided to start Black Box?
Oh yeah. So I took a few months off, talked to some people, and then through a contact, met a company. It was a small company, Oasis International Corporation. Great company. Small. I think I was the 25th employee when I started. So it was great. Had some good people that I worked with that were kind of mentoring me on the private side versus the government side. Although I was told I adapted to it really well. So it was really good. Got to learn everything, on this side. I had been on the government side. I was heavy in acquisitions and technology. So I reviewed a lot of proposals and did a lot of acquisitions and contracts. But then on the flip side of, writing, reviewing proposals, growth, delivery, managing projects, managing delivery. So it was good. So I worked in that company for 3 years, got an opportunity to work in another company for a year, running kind of a business unit for that company, responsible for everything from delivery operations and growth. And then, about a little over a year ago now, and I'm talking it over with my wife, we were kind of getting out of COVID, so more in person, kind of thought, why not try now to go on my own, start the company, kind of take all the knowledge and experience that I had on the government side, for a long time, and then on the private side for the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and just kind of leverage that to kind of work as a consultant, working with other government contractors. So that's where Black Box Strategies kind of sprung from. So
yeah. So was that coming from a desire to kind of own your own journey at that point? I mean, I've been in and out. I did consulting. I'm in government now, so I know what you're talking about. With once you know one side, it's very nice to know it from the other side as well. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're trying to monopolize? You have that background, so then that's a commodity. I live in the DC area like you. It's a definite commodity in the DC area. Is that what gave you the kind of strength to start something?
Yeah, I would say that kind of, like I said, the desire to kind of own my own way forward, right? Like I said, I love the companies I work with, great people, smart people, but I kind of like that desire. And the other thing is, I like doing different things. I like working with different people. Going out on my own, I have the opportunity, right, to work with other people, work with people, whether it's in a consulting role. I've done stuff where I've, helped with reviewing, writing, and managing proposals. Also working with people and looking at teaming, going after work ourselves, right? Where, on the delivery side. I haven't done that yet, but looking at that. So get to do a lot of variety of different things, work with a lot of different people, which I enjoy, get to, talk to a lot of different people. So it's something I've really enjoyed. And, having that opportunity, that led a lot to it. And plus just leveraging, I figured it was good to leverage, the knowledge that I had, both on the government side, experience, right? Not the smartest person in the world, but I've done a lot of things, right? After so many years, you just kind of, you pick up a few things and, figure I can help out. And I love working with other people and helping other people. And, one of the things I'll do is, I'm happy to talk to anybody smart, young people coming out or small companies and just, talk to them, give them advice and that. So I just enjoy doing that if I know it, if I can help.
That's amazing. And it's funny, when we're young, we don't understand the value of accumulated knowledge, right? That career journey we've had certainly pays off in terms of what we have the opportunities to do now.
Yeah. So, and it's been great. I've enjoyed it.
So I know I skipped through your entire government career there, but I had another question. At what point, so you were doing actual IT work, at what point do you in your journey go, I think I'll give that up and become a manager?
So that's a good question, because that was another kind of pivotal moment, right? I was doing programming, worked for the Department of Commerce, doing and it was like C programming. I was actually doing a little bit of Java. It was mostly C, some shell scripting and stuff like that, which is cool. And I enjoyed that, and I loved programming. And there was an opportunity. The organization I worked with came out with an initiative. My boss at the time wanted me to be the program manager, and I actually went back and forth. I was like, do I want to go into that role versus the technical role? But I thought, okay, I kind of got talked into it. Like I said, it wasn't like, I'm ready to move up and be a manager and stuff like that. One of the ideas was, okay, I would be this program manager. At the time I wasn't a supervisor or anything like that, and the role was like non-supervisory. So I thought, well, that's a good way to start in doing that. So I decided to go ahead and do that. Led the initiative. And then right afterward, they converted it to a supervisory role. So
it's like a bait and switch.
That type of stuff. So it was fine. So that got me into that level from the purely technical to more of the managerial. And then again, I was at the time I was working for USDA, and I got doing stuff like I was doing mostly like Visual Basic, right? And then I went to the Commerce as a GS13, and that's when I was doing the C and the Unix stuff. And so this was a opportunity to get a promotion to a 14, and management. So I got into that role for a while, and I was in that for a number of years. And before I got another opportunity to be, get a promotion to the deputy CIO for the bureaus at NTIA. So just kind of progressed from there after. And it was good because I was the program manager. Then I took on more responsibilities as a supervisor. And then, how, the government, we reorganized so many times. I had so many different roles and responsibilities before, getting to that role of deputy CIO. So I had already, been involved in a lot of the different aspects of the technology organization I work for. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like how that, that is something people in government have to, and probably even in industry have to figure out, right? As you let go of some of the more direct work, right? And you transition into whatever type of managerial role, project team or team or supervisor or whatnot. You have to figure out, okay, I got to make this mental shift. How did that transition go for you, right? Like a lot of technical people, I mean, you're very successful now, so it did go well, but I imagine initially Was that a bit of a, tell them you want to tell them how to do it kind of thing, or
Yeah.
was it an easy transition for you?
No, I wouldn't say it was an easy transition. I mean, I think I was, I was lucky, I was blessed that I had some, um, a small transition. It was like, okay, I was in charge of, 20 people, right? It started with just a few people, some good people. So it, kind of helped me, kind of learn as I go along, kind of help with, not creating too many problems as I learn from any mistakes, but definitely the toughest part initially, and it's something that's it's tough, and it's always been tough, is wanting to be hands-on, right? One of the important things is, of course they always say, delegating as a supervisor, you got to be able to delegate, you got to let go. And then, when you're a little bit of a control freak, that's always hard. So that's another thing that's nice now, right? I can kind of, even though I'm not in, control, working with companies, but, I get to do, the things that I want to do and make those decisions. So yeah, that was a little bit of it, kind of, definitely, I definitely liked the technical side. I like getting in there, like hacking code and that type of stuff. So that was difficult. Missed that. I was like, oh, I'll do some on my own. And I used to do some on my own, but yeah, but yes, there were times where I would still, get in there, and even when I was deputy CIO, had some admin privileges that technically probably shouldn't have had, but it was good for me to have, and I was careful. I didn't mess things up. So, yeah.
So as you've transitioned into Black Box and starting your own thing, you mentioned teaming, and not there. I know there are a lot of people in DC know what that means, but for those who
Okay.
haven't done government contracting, do you want to talk a little bit about what that means?
Sure. So one of the things, is and like you said, I'm president and co-founder. So the company Black Box Strategies is me and my wife. My wife is she's more behind the scenes. She does a lot with it and support. But one of the things as we go along, I'm doing the consulting, wanting to go after work directly for the government. So as a new company, when you're going after work with the government, one of the things the government wants, obviously, is what's your past performance. So what you need to do when you're starting out is become a subcontractor, right? You work with another company, they're going to go after work, and then they bring you along to do part of the work itself. So that's the teaming aspect of it, right? Building a team, you team together to go after work. So obviously, Black Box Strategies doesn't have government experience. I mean, I have it, right? But not the company itself. And a lot of that is the past performance. So you team with another company, and then you start building that past performance. So that's kind of the goal there, the idea. So
Well, and a company that teams with you also gets the value of your interpretation of government statements of work, right? You've written them from a government
yes,
perspective.
yeah.
It gives you kind of a little bit of inside baseball on why they might phrase stuff a certain way.
Yeah, yes, that's part of it, and understanding, how much is not being said in that statement of work that you got to kind of figure out. So yeah, plus they get my good looks, right? So
Right, of course.
yeah.
So as you've gone through your career, what's something that you wish you could change about how we do things? So like, and maybe that change is too large to just solve today for you and I talking here tonight to solve, but maybe we can get that conversation started. That people should take a look at it. What might that change be for you?
So you're asking, a change in the industry, or a
Yeah,
change
either in the
personally,
industry, something we do or even in our own companies, and how we mentor or bring on people, or in how we do work for the government, or how government does work. There's plenty of
right?
commentary there.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One of the things, and people talk about this all the time, the collaboration between government and industry. It's always talked about, got to collaborate, but it doesn't happen the way it needs to, right? When I was government, and I wasn't an expert on the FAR, but I would read the FAR, and I'd have, contracting officers and contracting specialists saying, no, you can't do this. I'm like, it says it in the FAR. I can.
Right.
Yeah, we're not, we don't have a solicitation on the street. We're not giving anybody unfair advantage. We're bringing people in, talking to companies, understanding them, getting them, explaining, what your requirements are, getting their insight into it as you build and start thinking about that requirement. That collaboration, it's still not happening. And some agencies are better at it than others, but across the board, I think that's an area, right? And I know a lot of companies are good, right? They want to be that, collaborative partner. So I think that's one area. It's not mind-boggling, but it's talked about a lot, but it doesn't. It still could be a lot better. The other thing, that I would and I think this is for everybody, when you're younger, government industry as well, is kind of diversify a little bit, right? I stayed at, commerce for 17 and a half years. And I think it worked out for me. I had a lot of different roles, but I also think it's good to get out there sometimes, and think about that. Do you want to be in this role, or, try different things, right? Try, especially government. I would encourage, younger people in the government to, number one, look at, different roles. Don't just stay in one job for, forever, right? Think about, especially if you want to expand and grow, go to different agencies. If you have an opportunity to get detailed in that. So the other thing for me that I think would have been that I could have done differently, especially when I was government, is just getting out there a little bit more. I kept my head down. I didn't go do a lot of networking. I didn't, go and do a lot of speaking and stuff like that. I think there's a balance. You don't want to only be doing that when you're in the government as you move up. Mm-hmm. But I think, it's good for, good for you to get out there. Like some of the people I talk to in the government now, I encourage them, you should get out there, go out and do this panel, go in and speak, this. So those are just some thoughts that I had.
Yeah, that's some great advice. So what's coming up for you? What's next?
Yeah. So one of the things I still got, black box strategy, and I'm still moving forward, but actually just recently I signed up with also company Catapult Growth Partners as a partner with them. Catapult Growth Partners, they are doing a lot of the same stuff. What we do is kind of business growth advisory services. So again, working with small, mid-sized companies, even some large, and helping them basically the same thing, go after work, helping them, build a pipeline, helping them identify work, helping them qualify that work, helping them get teammates as they go after work. So that's something, brand new for me. Another area of focus for me is going to be spending a lot of time working with Catapult. There's, I think about, 15 of us, and working together with clients and helping them go after work with the government, helping them in from a strategy, depending on this, some companies, and again, I enjoy doing this, right? So helping them a little bit with strategies, helping them even with their processes if necessary. If they're more mature, just, helping them refine some of it, helping them, meet people, whether it's government people, whether it's other industry people. So that's going to be a focus of mine coming up. It's brand new, just started. So that's kind of the next step while I'm still going to be doing my black box strategies and building that up, what we're trying to do with that. So
that's pretty awesome. I like the story where you have owners like yourself who, kind of give back, right, through interaction with other companies and arrangements, team arrangements, and help kind of grow our capabilities across the board here in the area, right? So that the ultimate goal for all of us, besides making money, because money's not a bad thing. None of us are going to say it's a bad thing, but certainly helping government perform better is a big goal of most of us who work in this space.
Yeah, I was government for a long time, and even after being out for 5 years, it's hard for me to not still think like, government, right? I'll get in conversations and I'll say we, like government. Okay, I'm not government anymore, but I still have that mindset, right? And one of the things, when I was government, I always think of I'm here to provide a service. I'm here to working for taxpayers. What am I doing that's really benefiting them, right? And I still have that mindset. Yeah, if you don't mind, just real quick, the other thing that's a focus for me, we mentioned a little bit, the nonprofit Closing the Gap here. That's something, again, that I'm on the board with. And just real quick, Closing the Gap year, the whole point of Closing the Gap year is to work with youth and young adults 18 to 26, focused in DC, who are undereducated, not going to school, not working, or not fully working, to help them build up and get connected, looking at, gap year type of methodology to help them. So it's another thing that's really exciting for me, that I enjoy, that I'm able to do that, give back with this. So.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. And people can donate to that organization?
Closingthegapyear.org. But yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll put the
And it's a 501c3 nonprofit. So
perfect. I'll put the link in the description, because I too like to make sure we give back. It's very important for us to
yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. There's a lot of great. One of the other things I believe is, everybody has potential. They just need some help sometimes along exploring that. And one of the things we do is, we want to talk to them. And what is your spark? What is it that you really desired, wanted to do? And if we can help them, achieve that, these young adults, it's great. So,
wow, that's awesome.
That's it. So,
well, thank you, Richard. It's been great talking with you, getting to know you a little better, and hearing what's going on. And thank you for joining me.
all right. Thank you, Jeremy. Really appreciate it. All right.